Nathan, thank you. Early voting on the Little Rock Mayor Frank Scott Jr.'s Rebuild the Rock sales tax increase is now underway, but unlike November's election, early voting only going to last a week and is only taking place at a few locations. Now, you can vote at the Pulaski County Regional Building across the street from the courthouse. You can also cast your ballot at one of the 6 library sites spread out across the city. The voting sites will be from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. with no early voting on Saturday or Sunday, so a heads up. You can also request to vote absentee, but there is a new deadline to get that in.
Also, what's different is that anybody who requests an absentee ballot, they have to have it in our office the Friday before the election.
So for absentee voters handing those ballots in person, that means getting them in by this Friday. Now, if you are mailing in those ballots, they have to be received by the county clerk's office before 7:30 p.m. on Election Day, which is a week from today. And if you still want more information on the proposed 1% sales tax increase, we have you covered here on THV11. Just make sure to watch our special tonight on 6:30 Central. There we will have everything you need to know about the penny tax proposal and even bring you arguments from people on both sides of this issue. Again, that special airs right here on THV11 tonight at 6:30. Turning now to the ongoing fight against COVID-19, there are new warnings straight from the front lines following new fears that Labor Day travel could lead to another spike in cases. More than 5.3 million travelers were screened by TSA officers over the holiday, even as the average daily death count from COVID jumped 130% over the last month. That's the worst it has been since March. That's before vaccines were widely available. David Bagnell has the very latest from us this afternoon.
COVID is kicking humanity's ass. And as a member, as a team player on Team Humanity, I take that personally.
This is Dr. Hassan Kakli. He is in a race against time, but right now he is losing.
It's okay, Araceli.
His patient, 50-year-old Araceli, has been unresponsive since he admitted her to El Campo Memorial Hospital roughly 3 days ago.
It's okay.
She needs an ICU bed and an evaluation from a cancer specialist. El Campo has neither. Despite being just 76 miles from Houston, home to the world's largest medical complex and more than 85 different hospitals, Dr. Kakli can't find one that will accept her as a transfer. Everyone is overwhelmed with COVID patients.
And I tried to get her into the best cancer hospital in the world, which is also in Houston, and they couldn't take her.
Kakli told us the wait times here in the ER are unprecedented.
You would never see 4 digits on minutes since checked in. We're 4 digits on the thousands of minutes. We've never seen this, ever.
But Dr. Kakli understands what the other hospitals are facing. Here in El Campo, the beds are almost entirely filled with COVID patients too.
So 20 patients in the hospital, only 1 does not have COVID.
Wow.
That's how it's been, past 3 weeks.
Wow.
Every day.
Tell him, Annie.
Every day.
Every day.
For nearly 4 days, he and his team have worked the phones. Nurse Virginia Broman called almost every hospital in Houston.
All righty. Thank you. Bye-bye. No, they don't have any beds.
While Dr. Kakli called MD Anderson Cancer Hospital, and he pressed them politely.
So at this point, it's kind of like, we need help. Like if she didn't have the malignancy and we had an open ICU bed, we would take care of her here.
Finally, he got it, a yes. They accepted Araceli.
I thought you'd be all jubilant and...
No, I'm not jubilant because it shouldn't take 4 days and 5 phone calls to make this happen. It's sad that we're all relieved and happy that we finally got a patient out after 4 days. Like that's where the bar is right now. Like we got him out eventually. And kudos to the entire staff here, the other ER docs, the other staff that have been keeping this patient alive for as long as we have. If we get through this, like the team that we have here, like our bond and everything that we have is just going to be that much stronger if we get through this.
If we don't kill each other first.
Exactly. If we don't kill each other first, we'll be good.
It was one of the few times they laughed together that day. But the good feelings did not last for long. 5 COVID patients walked into the ER while we were there, and none of them were vaccinated.
One more question.
Yeah.
How are you?
How am I? I'm still going. I've had to accept the worst possible case scenario. It's that this is the worst possible scenario. It's not going to get any better, but we're going to keep going. And that's it. All right, let's get to it.
David Begno, CBS News.
President Biden is heading to New York and New Jersey to see Ida's aftermath firsthand. He's already approved major disaster declarations for 6 New Jersey and 5 New York counties affected by the remnants of Hurricane Ida. But with so much damage, many say it's time for Congress to pass pending infrastructure legislation to help communities deal with disasters and severe weather.
These storms are now more frequent. They're more intense. We desperately need that climate resiliency infrastructure.
Now, if passed, the $1 trillion infrastructure bill will modernize roads, bridges, sewers, and drainage systems to make communities better able to withstand powerful storms. On September 11th, 2001, terrorists hijacked American Airlines Flight 77 and then flew it into the heart of America's military. That'd be the Pentagon. 20 years later, a couple of the survivors of the attack are carrying on the legacy of their fallen soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines killed in the attack. Natalie Brand has their story.
You had basically every type of emergency vehicle and the sirens from that, and then on top of that, just a really acrid smell from the burning jet fuel. And to be honest, most of my memories are a little bit fragmented because I was only 3 years old at the time.
Second Lieutenant Hannah Bourne's memories of September 11, 2001 may be fragmented, but the impact lasting. She and her infant sister Heather were inside the Pentagon Daycare Center at the time of the attack.
Service members showed up at the door and started loading infants into cribs and then just carried the cribs like half a mile to the river.
Her mother, now retired Brigadier General Dana Bourne, was serving at Bolling Air Force Base at the time.
You know, our world changed. And it took us a while to realize that, I think, after 9/11, that there's no going back, right? That things have changed.
Also changed the lives of those who served and those left with the trauma of that day. As a child, Hannah drew pictures of what she experienced following the attack and instinctively comforted her sister when her dad brought her to a spot near the Pentagon to try and explain what happened.
Her younger sister, who at 4 months old really was just dealing with, you know, sadness, who knows where that came from, but she was comforting.
Both daughters now committed to military service themselves. Lieutenant Bourne with the Air Force, Midshipman Heather Bourne currently at the Naval Academy.
The biggest takeaways that my sister and I have just been from witnessing firsthand how people show up every day and commit themselves to a larger purpose and do what the nation asks of them, but also do so much more.
Lieutenant Bourne, who is completing a graduate program at Georgetown University this year, hopes to one day fly rescue missions.
What is it about rescue missions?
I don't know, there's probably something innate there about just the gratitude that my sister and I and my family have for the service members who had the awareness to come help rescue us during 9/11 and maybe wanting to give back in a more direct way.
Lieutenant Bourne says every 9/11, she and her sister reflect on what they can do to honor the legacy of the lives lost and the sacrifices made over the past 20 years. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Arlington, Virginia.
Military leaders citing that the Pentagon is one of the most targeted terrorist sites in the world shut down the daycare center following the 9/11 attack. Well, 10 years ago, War Memorial Stadium was a sight to behold. The Razorbacks defeated New Mexico on September 10th, 2011, but the game was an afterthought compared to the crowd. The Arkansas faithful honoring the victims of 9/11 at that time of the 10th anniversary of the attacks. Former General Manager Charlie Staggs recalls one of the most special days in Razorback history.
Well, you can just walk down on the field, coming down this ramp, the home team ramp, and just look. After it's full and the game has started and they're playing, it's just a special event.
Tonight, we will hear from those who attended the ball game back in 2011 here in Little Rock and what made this one of the more special atmospheres in the history of War Memorial Stadium.